My name is Julie Berthium. I'm the Senior Insurance Advisor at CDSPI. I just wanted to make a quick introduction of my colleagues who are joining us today. So I also have Christopher, another insurance advisor at CDSPI, and Andrea, who is our early career education specialist located in Alberta. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And congratulations on reaching this milestone in your dental career. Today's session is all about helping you sort out your insurance quickly and confidently without the confusion or sales pitch. We know insurance isn't always the most exciting topic, but it is an important one, and our goal is to make it clear, fast, and relevant to where you're at now. Whether you're heading into practice right away or still figuring out your next step, the decisions that you make now, especially around coverage and deadlines, can have a big impact on you later. So let's make this session count. So here's what we're going to walk through today. First, we're going to cover how and when to get malpractice insurance so that you are ready to start practicing. The importance of office insurance, even as an associate. Then we'll show you how to turn your student insurance coverage into real world protection, including upgrades that can save you money. We'll take a closer look at disability and life insurance, what makes CDSPI coverage unique and worth keeping. And we'll wrap up with what to do next, including key deadlines, how to set up payments, and how to connect with your CDSPI advisor for personal advice. You'll leave here knowing what to do and when so that you can check insurance off of your to-do list. We want this to be interactive, so if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and we'll try and get to them all, including questions that were submitted at registration. Okay, so let's get going. First thing is malpractice insurance. So you may have had the summer student practitioner malpractice insurance when you were in third year, but you must now reapply as a dentist, not as a student. As you know, before you can legally start to work as a dentist, you need malpractice insurance. And the timing for getting your coverage can be a little tricky, so I just want to go over the process. Now, outside of Ontario, Alberta, and Quebec, CDSPI is the primary provider for malpractice insurance. Your malpractice and your license do go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, so you do need to apply for both at the same time. When we get your application, we will contact the licensing body in the province or territory to let them know that you have applied and to ask them what date they anticipate activating your license so that we can activate the insurance as of the same day they activate your license. We offer anywhere from 3 to 25 million in coverage. Now, if you are going to be practicing in Ontario or Alberta, you will get your primary coverage along with your license through the licensing body. In those two provinces, they offer you $2 million of coverage with your license. However, if you wish to have a higher amount than 2 million, we do offer an excess malpractice policy in Alberta and Ontario in the event you ever had a claim that exceeded the primary $2 million policy. Now, I will let you know the way an excess policy works is that it is a secondary supplemental policy. It always follows the primary policy. So if your primary policy deemed that the given claim was not a legitimate or valid claim and denied that claim, then the excess policy will not respond either. It only pays out after they have paid out the $2 million maximum. Now, I know it's very, very exciting. You just graduated, you want to get your license, but if you're not going to be working right away, like if you're going to take the summer off and just enjoy yourself before you start work in the fall, then you may want to postpone getting your license. Because if you do take that summer off, but you get licensed right away, you will have to get malpractice and pay for malpractice right away, even though you are not working yet. So just keep it in mind to try and align your license with when you may start working. We get a lot of claims every day, but they're not usually big claims, and it's not the big mistakes that usually result in the majority of claims, but more often it's a breakdown in communication or documentation, like informed consent or failure to follow up, that does result in the vast majority of our claims. So, as I've said many times over the years, please document very clearly your charts. Um, Explain everything to the patient so that they understand what's going on, and make sure if you are in a practice that you also inform your staff that you expect these standards of care as well. Okay, so I'm going to move on to office insurance. So if you had signed up for the no cost student insurance, then that did include up to $15,000 coverage for any dental tools. Now, that policy, once you start working, you will need to activate it to the full version of our triple guard plan. Um, because once you start practicing, you're going to need to account for all these additional risks that you're going to face, because most grads do start as an associate and may not realize that they need their own office insurance. Because if the practice experiences a business interruption loss due to fire, flood, or some other disaster, the principal dentist's insurance will not cover you. So you do need to have your own. So the triple guard plan, if you do activate it, is going to provide you with up to $50,000 of coverage for any hand tools or equipment that you may own in the practice. But secondly, it's also going to give you practice interruption coverage. So if something does happen to the practice and it has to close for repairs, that would cover your lost income in the event of such a closure. And thirdly, while malpractice is professional liability for lawsuits arising out of treatment that you provide, there is also a commercial general liability risk that you face. So the triple guard does include commercial general liability in the amount of 5 million. This is for lawsuits arising out of the office in which you're named that do not have to do with treatment of a patient. So, for example, a slip and fall. Think about it. Without that proper coverage, you would be facing that lawsuit on your own. So it is very important that you do activate your triple guard insurance. If you do so before December 31st, then it will be at no cost to you until December 31st and half price for the next 3 years. Okay. So the good news is we can help you with all of that protection with the Triple Guard Associate Insurance. Now, once you have secure, you do have to secure a job before you can apply for that, because we do need to know the physical location that you are going to be working in. But once you've got that job lined up, please contact us to be able to activate that. And you can protect yourself really for about $1 a day. Now, with the Triple Guard Associate Insurance, uh, its normal cost is about $712 a year. But since it'll be no cost until the end of this year and half price for the next 3 years, that means when you would start paying for it in January, it's about $356 a year. Now, what I usually ask my clients is, ask yourself, how long would it take you to lose $356 in income? Probably not long at all, maybe a day. And so, from my perspective, even if something happens to the practice just one day in the year, the premium more than justifies itself, let alone if something more catastrophic were to happen. So, please do take advantage of that offer. Another nice feature under our Triple Guard Associate plan is that if you are associating in multiple clinics, then you can list multiple clinics on the policy at no additional charge. So this is key to make sure that you protect your income in the event of such a closure, because most people don't yet have a nest egg of savings they can fall back upon if their office is closed and they cannot work. So I do want to stress that. But for now, I'm going to pass it over to my colleague, Andrea, to take on the second portion of the presentation.
Thanks so much, Julie. I'm going to walk you through what happens with your no-cost student insurance as you finish school, whether you've already crossed the stage or just about to. This is a key time for you to understand what coverage you already have in place, what's changing upon graduation, and what options you have moving forward. As you can see in this table, your coverage gets a boost when you graduate. This happens automatically if you're enrolled in the no-cost package as a student. At minimum, you'll get double what you had as a student for life insurance, accidental death and dismemberment, and disability card. However, you will still have a chance to level up this coverage by completing the optional graduate package application, which is medically underwritten. You have until December 31st of this year to qualify for $500,000 in life insurance and accidental death and dismemberment, as well as $3,500 a month in disability guard, and the $50,000 in triple guard for associates, as Julie mentioned, as well as secure some discounts on your premiums. You'll be able to secure this upgraded coverage at no cost until the end of the year. We'll always suggest completing this sooner rather than later, especially while you're in good health. I'll get into a bit more detail on how we can customize your coverage in a moment, but first, I wanted to address some common questions that we get at this stage. So we know some of you might be moving to the US, so what happens to your coverage in this case? First things first, please reach out to us and let us know if you're moving to work or if you're doing a post-grad program. If you move to the US, you can keep it, and depending on your situation, we can discuss different ways of customizing your coverage so that it works for you. If you're moving outside of North America, also please contact us. Then for the next one, we have what happens if you're doing a residency program or not planning on working next year. So if you're pursuing graduate studies or residence and paying an insurance premiums is a financial strain, there is an option to put your policy on hold at minimum for 6 months for up to 3 years. Keep in mind, though, that there are implications to putting your disability guard insurance policy on hold. For example, if you come disabled during this time, you aren't covered and you won't receive any benefits. Another note to this is once your coverage is on hold, you won't be able to reinstate it early without medical evidence. It's therefore a good idea to speak with one of us or a CDSPI advisor to determine a hold period that's right for you. And then if you don't start working until the fall or some point later this year, don't worry, it will remain at no cost until December 31st, and you will remain covered until then. So going back to disability guard, this is the big one. Disability insurance is probably the most important financial protection you can have as a new dentist and as you're starting to build up your net worth. You really should treat it as a must, and the big question is how much coverage should/can I apply for? Disability insurance is meant to replace part of your income if you're unable to work. It's not it's not meant to replace 100%, and that's intentional. The idea is to cover your essential living expenses and financial obligations without creating a situation where someone might be better off not working. That's also why you can't just pick any number. The coverage amount you qualify for is based on income, and if your income changes, your coverage should too. For example, if you're earning $125,000 a year, you'd be eligible for up to $5,900 a month in disability card coverage. Whether that's enough really depends on your lifestyle, your fixed expenses, and how much of a safety net you'd want if you couldn't practice. To see how much coverage you're eligible for and what your premiums might look like, you can follow this QR code to use the disability insurance calculator on CDSPI's website. It's a helpful tool to run the numbers and explore different coverage levels before applying. What makes Disability Guard stand out is that it's one of the few plans that still includes true own occupation definition. That means if you can't practice as a dentist, but could still technically do some other type of work, you're still considered disabled and eligible for benefits. That distinction matters when your ability to work is so closely tied to your training and your physical skills. We'll talk more about how that plan can be customized to fit your budget and career goals, but first I wanted to share the story from someone who's been through it firsthand. In 2021, Dr. Kieran Atwell was running a successful practice and raising a young family when she was diagnosed with breast cancer. In her interview with CDSPI, she had mentioned that there was no family history of breast cancer and she had very healthy habits. She exercised regularly, was in bed by 9 p.m. every night, and followed a vegetarian diet. So the diagnosis came as a real shock. Dentistry, as you all know, is a physically demanding career. It requires long hours on your feet and often in awkward positions. As she began treatment, the physical and mental toll became too much. She ended up bringing in a part-time associate to help with the workload while she focused on recovery and underwent treatment. By 2023, after being away from dentistry for 2 years, she made the decision to sell her practice to that same associate, someone she'd hired right after her diagnosis. What helped make that possible and take the pressure off financially was the fact that she had purchased disability insurance while she was still in dental school. I encourage you to read her story by following the QR code because she truly said it best. When it comes to disability insurance, it's one of those things you're told you should get and hope you never need, but having the coverage does make all the difference. So moving on to the next slide, we talked earlier about how much disability coverage you can qualify for based on your income. And you just heard a real story about how that coverage can be life-changing. Let's talk about what your coverage might actually look like today and how you can adjust to it to better match your needs and budget. If you haven't applied for the optional graduate package with medical underwriting, you're most likely in the double up plan. That's the default upgrade you get at graduation. No medical required, and you're automatically pre-approved. It's a great starting point, but it comes with more limited coverage and longer waiting periods before the benefits kick in. Keep this if you have a medical condition that prevents you from obtaining more. If you did apply with medical questions, you likely have the optional package, which includes a shorter waiting period of just 30 days and access to higher coverage amounts. It does cost more, but even small changes to this plan, which we can talk about making, can make a meaningful difference in both your protection and long-term premium costs. One of the standout features of this coverage, as I mentioned earlier, but I'll say it again, is the own occupation definition. That means, again, if you can't work as a dentist, you're still considered disabled, even if you work in another job. This kind of protection is rare out there in the market and has been specifically negotiated by CDSPI for our clients, you the dentists. We'll also look at things like premium structure, step versus level that can help you customize your coverage even further. So in our next slide, we'll look at how premiums work because this is another common and important question. By default, CDSPI's Disability Guard comes with what's called a step rate, which means your premium increases every 5 years as you age. It starts off lower, but it does go up over time when it comes to price. The alternative is to switch to a level rate, which locks in your premium and keeps it the same as long as you keep your coverage. It's a bit more pricey up front, but can save you money in the long run, especially if you plan on keeping your coverage into your 40s and 50s. Here's an example at age 27. With a step premium, their monthly cost might start at $56. With a level premium, it might be closer to $100, but that rate stays fixed over time. Another cost savings adjustment you can make is with your elimination period, also known as your waiting period. That's the number of days before benefits kick in. So changing from 30 days to 90 days can significantly reduce the cost. And just as a reminder, these plans are non-cancelable and your premiums are guaranteed, which makes them really hard to beat when you compare them to what's available elsewhere in the market. So later in the year, usually around November or early December, someone from our team, most likely myself, Julie, or Chris, will reach out to talk about how your coverage can be personalized. We'll walk you through the options and help you set up what works for your budget, your lifestyle, and your goals. That looks like choosing between the step and level premium options for long-term savings, adjusting the elimination period, the time between the claim and when the benefit starts to balance cost and convenience. So again, just note that if you wanted to switch back from 90 days to 30 days, you will have to medically underwrite this. So to make changes to these things, you can either chat with myself, Chris, or Julie, or you can actually do this online yourself. You can switch your premium preference to level by completing the form in the QR code, and you can make changes to your elimination period by emailing a request to insurance@cdspi.com. We do encourage you to have a short call with one of us to discuss your individual situation and make it easy to make any adjustment. Now I'm going to pass it over to Chris to review the life insurance portion of your student coverage.
Now, let's talk about debt. Managing debt is a critical aspect in running a successful dental practice if you're planning to own one. Dental professionals often face unique challenges, including student loan debt, practice loans, overhead, and professional expenses. Now, we've heard from recent graduates that the amount of debt is steadily increasing, and this is evident in the rising loan amount of banks that are willing to offer. Now, dentists are desirable clients. You earn well and reliably repay your debts. Now, this advantage can also create vulnerability early in your career when your financial foundation is still being established. Now, the average Canadian dental student's debt that they can borrow up to is $400,000, while the annual income of a new dentist in Canada is 125 to 200 grand. Now, why is this important? Because this is where insurance comes in, because life insurance is also considered to be a strategy to manage your financial risk. So let's take a closer look at the life insurance component of the bundle. Next. Okay, great. Now, most students that I talk to, they don't really consider that they need life insurance. One of the reasons that they have said is because they said, "Oh, I'm still young. I don't really need this." But consider this for a moment. If you are taking out a student loan and you're going to dental school, and provided that if something does happen to you and you do pass away as a result of that, the financial burden has to still carry on. It's either carried on by your loved ones, your family members, and that's just the reality of it. But by having life insurance, it does help to fill that gap in case if something does happen to you. And in this chart, you'll be able to see the premium difference for the different levels of coverage. We're looking at 500,000, 750,000, and $1 million difference in coverage for a 24-year-old non-smoker, including riders of waiver of premium, a future insurance guarantee, accidental death and dismemberment. Now, we've also had occasions where students who decided not to have life insurance come back to us in the future. And me, Julie, and other advisors have come across this many, many times. Because if you are planning on owning a practice, you do need life insurance. The reason behind it is because the banks need a collateral in case if something does happen to you. And the amount of time where people who are calling in and asking for life insurance because they're closing in one day or they're closing in 3 days there's a lot. So I would say if you are planning on purchasing a practice down the line, having life insurance is already a good step to your advantage. Now, of course, you can also increase the premiums as your insurance needs grow as you start to build a family, as you start to have children. Your insurance need will also grow, and you are able to customize the coverage to your needs later on as you grow older as well. Even if you aren't married or have dependents now, you want to at least have enough to at least consider to pay for your student debt and for your financial expenses. And feel free to speak with any of our advisors, especially considering the pricing as well, as I think it's less than $1 a day in terms of the coverage, especially if you're a dental school graduate in 2025. And go next. So what's next for you? There's a lot of things that needs to be managed, especially after listening to our presentation. There's a part where we're talking about the malpractice, disability insurance. We want to make sure that if you haven't applied for the optional insurance, you do want to apply for it because it can secure more coverage and you're taking advantage of the maximum discount that CDSPI has to offer. The 50% off the premium reductions for the basic life and accidental death, and the 15% lifetime discount for the disability insurance. So if you want to make sure that you're taking full advantage of that discount, you would want to apply for the optional. And the deadline is December 31st of 2025. You can also customize your coverage to meet your needs and your budget. If you are planning on starting to work, then make sure that you complete the Triple Guard activation form, because once you already have the practice address, you can complete the Triple Guard activation form because it requires the practice address there. And last but not least, book some one-on-one time with an advisor to answer your questions or help completing the forms. Now, one thing that's not also mentioned in this slide as well is that CDSPI also offers financial planning, whether you're still a student, whether you want to manage your debt, you can always speak with any of our financial advisors as well on figuring out how you can manage your budget, manage your income. That way they'll be able to advise you in terms of like managing your debt as you graduate out of dental school. That's also something that I heard was very, very important and was quite good from our students who graduated last year as well. So that's it. And next slide, please. If you have any questions and feedback, feel free to, first of all, if you have any questions for us, feel free to type it in the chat so we can answer it later on. But if you have any feedback, feel free to scan the QR code.
Let's see if we've got any questions
Yeah,
here.
we do have some
Yes.
questions. So I'll see if I can do the first one.
Okay.
So it's asking, just want to clarify for licensing in Nova Scotia, I need to submit my license application, then do CDSPI malpractice application indicate that my license application has been submitted. And the follow-up question is, how do I indicate to the licensing body that I will have CDSPI malpractice? If it's not active yet, will they just know by coordinating with CDSPI, or do I have to specifically say so in my license application? Good
Okay. So
question.
since I did the malpractice portion, so I suppose I'll jump in on this one.
Okay.
So malpractice and your license go hand in hand. You cannot have one without the other. So you can't have a license without malpractice, and you can't have malpractice without a license. So you do need to apply for both at the same time. As I said, when we do get your application, we will contact the licensing body in the province to let them know that you have applied and to ask them what date they are going to activate your license so that we activate the insurance as of the same day that they activate your license. Now, when you are doing the application for your licensing, just let them know that you are in process of applying with CDSPI. I mean, they're very, very familiar. We do with the process. We do this every day, and then certainly we will be in touch with them to confirm that. So, good question. Very common question at this time of year. Hopefully that answered your question. If not, please do put another comment in there.
Yep.
Do we have any?
Yeah, we do have
Else?
second questions and third questions. So second question is, well, there's a couple ones here. So number one, do we apply online for optional graduate package? So the answer is yes. So we can as advisors, we can send you the optional graduate application as like a PDF, but if not, you can also apply it online from our cdspi.com website. There would, I believe it would be like student insurance, and there would just be a section where it says apply now, and it'll direct you to the application form. That's the answer to the first question. I can answer the second one
Yeah.
as well. Can you explain a bit more on deductible amount for malpractice insurance coverage? There were options of $1,000, $2,500, and $5,000, and which ones are the best for the new grad? Okay, so deductible is the amount that you do have to pay in terms of a claim. So the options for 1,000, 2,500, or 5,000, those are the three options that you do have of. So in terms of a claim, you just pay the deductible amount that you just chose. The rule of thumb that I would usually associate this with is that, of course, the higher deductible, the lower the premium. And you can also take a look at our premium charts at our cdspi.com website. Actually, I don't know if
Actually, I'll just pipe
you
in
want to.
there a little bit too.
Okay.
My personal opinion that I give to my clients is take the $1,000 deductible.
Yeah.
In my opinion, yes, Chris is right that if you have a higher deductible, your premium is lower. But in my opinion, the amount of savings is negligible versus how much more would be due out of your pocket in the event of a claim. For example, on the $3 million coverage, the difference between a 1,000 deductible and a 5,000 deductible is only about $135 a year in savings if you have the $5,000 deductible. But of course, if there's a claim that's approved against you and you have 5,000, that's now an extra 4,000 out of your pocket versus if you had 1,000. So it's entirely up to you. You can pick the higher deductible if you want, but my recommendation is to do the $1,000. And I do see the next question here about Triple Guard. So it's asking the no cost Triple Guard insurance activation for associates. What is the difference between that plan and our existing Triple Guard plan with the student package? Okay, so the Triple Guard that you had with the student package, it's an amended version of our Triple Guard. The only component of Triple Guard that you had as a student was the office contents portion and only up to 15,000. When you activate the full version of Triple Guard, you will now have up to 50,000 of office contents coverage, the commercial general liability for like slip and fall lawsuit, and most importantly, that practice interruption component. And if you do nothing with the Triple Guard, like if you don't activate it at all, that amended student version will lapse at the end of the year.
I also see a fourth question here in the chat. I have $500 in disability with another provider. Should I keep both? Now, Julie and Chris, feel free to chime in because I think we all think the same thing here. But to start, absolutely, you can have more than one policy. That is 100% okay. But where we give advice is that if you do make a claim, then you'd be responsible for reporting it twice and doing it double the work. In addition, our disability policies compared to the other one that you might have is not necessarily apples to apples. So it could be the case that if you were to later apply for more coverage with us, that coverage could be cheaper. Julie or Chris, anything you want to add to that one?
Yeah, I'll add into that. So there's been a lot of changes to the disability market in the last few years. I'm not sure if any of you are aware, but I believe it was about 2, maybe 3 years ago. Manulife actually withdrew from the disability market on the individual side. They no longer offer disability. And then everyone I know is well aware that last November, Canada Life chose to remove own occupation. So they no longer offer own occupation to dentists. And since, as Andrea explained, since own occupation is so vitally important for dentists, I would never suggest that you have a policy that does not have own occupation. So by all means, if you want to have covered with 2 companies, like Andrea said, that's okay. I will just very strongly recommend that you make sure it has own occupation. And, like Andrea said as well, if you do have with more than one company and you need to make a claim, you do need to report 2 different claims. And being disabled is already stressful enough as is. Do you want to have to go through the process twice? And if you are having, comparing them, please do make sure it is apples to apples, because remember, our optional graduate package has only a 30-day elimination period, where most other brokers who target dentists by default try to sell you a policy with a 90-day elimination period.
Yeah.
And trust me, there is a substantial difference in cost between a policy that has 30 days versus 90 days. So you cannot just look at the premium. You do need to look apples to apples to make sure you are getting, real feedback. And if you want to send a copy of that other policy to us, we're more than welcome to have a look at it and give you our opinion. Like I said at the beginning, we're all salaried, non-commissioned people. So we will give you an objective, unbiased opinion about that. But most often when I've had clients send me other policies for an opinion, although it initially looks cheaper, if I try to do an apples to apples comparison and I change my policy from 30 to 90 days, now all of a sudden ours is cheaper. So don't just look at the cost, and you don't have to be an insurance expert in it. That's why we're here to help you guide and compare if need be. And I know that we put in the link in the chat to the website where you can apply for that optional graduate package.
There is one more last question. It's asking, if I'm planning to work in August, should I apply for CDSPI malpractice insurance and license on early July?
So work and licensing are 2 different things. So if you become licensed in July, you will have to start paying for malpractice in July, even though you may not start working until August. What I would probably suggest is, I'm not quite sure how long the licensing process is to contact your provincial licensing body to inquire, if you plan on working in August, at what point in time should you start the application process for licensing? On our end, with regards to malpractice, it's not a long process at all. So the moment you submit an application to us, we just need confirmation from the licensing body as to the date of your license, and then we'll activate accordingly. So I think call the licensing body, ask them how long it takes to get licensed. Because if it's going to be several weeks, then yeah, you're going to want to start the process ahead of time. Otherwise, that could really delay your ability to start working if there's any postponing in that.
Or yeah, if we've had issues or we've had situations where students were keen on getting their license right away out of dental school, but because their license is issued, therefore their malpractice insurance will have to be paid, even though, let's say if it's issued in June, but let's say if you're not starting to work until September, you do have to pay for the malpractice insurance on the day that your license is issued.
So again, on behalf of Chris and Andrea, I just want to thank everybody again for joining us tonight. I know your time is valuable, and we appreciate any feedback. So if you want to scan that QR code, we're more than happy to hear what you have to say. But for now, congratulations on graduating, and we hope to continue working with you for many years to come. Okay. Thank you, everybody.